9 sinister first dates that turned hauntingly disturbing. Secrets revealed. Lives forever cursed. Emily's heart raced as she clicked on the article 9 horrific stories about first dates gone wrong. Her other hand clutched the edge of her couch, the gulf of fear widening in her chest as she stared at the screen. Each tale twisted more sinister than the last, blind dates that ended in near-fatal encounters, charming suitors who turned out to be predators, hidden pasts stalking unsuspecting victims. She couldn't shake the rising dread in the pit of her stomach. What if she was next? In the quaint, fog-drenched streets of her Ohio neighborhood, Emily hunched over her closet, sifting through clothes. What looked like a simple date was slowly morphing into her worst nightmare. Jake seemed perfect, a charming smile, easy banter. Yet here she was, navigating her unease while Ryan, her 13-year-old son, loitered nearby. "Mom, you're going to look great." His voice was shaky, and she could see the uncertainty etched on his face. Ryan was just nervous about her date. He was worried. For her. For them. "Just don't let anyone hurt you, okay? Sweetheart, it's just dinner." She offered a weak smile, but he knew better. A knot of anxiety twisted in her gut as she realized this was her first step back into the world of dating, and despite her attempts to stay calm, panic fluttered beneath the surface. As she pulled on the dark blue dress that accentuated her worn figure and tangled thoughts, she glanced at the clock. Time was slipping away. Stepping outside, the autumn air felt thick and alive. The fog coiled around her like a living creature. With each step toward her car, she felt the prickling of unease crawling up her skin. Jake awaited her at the diner, his presence a blend of charisma and menace. The laughter shared that night began as sweet music, but uncomfortable notes played in her mind. He seemed to know everything, from the quiet joy she found in coffee shop mornings to the long nights wrangling Ryan's latest school project. She tried to brush it off, telling herself it was just coincidence. Or perhaps he had simply read her dating profile too well. Moments turned somber when her phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number, each message painting a more disturbing picture. "I see your routines," it read. Goosebumps scattered across her skin, but as the conversation turned to lighter topics, she chose to ignore it. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Days turned into a waking nightmare. Ryan began to scream in the night, his dreams filled with shadowy figures. The kind of presence that churned dread in Emily's stomach. Mr. Thompson, their once friendly neighbor, started his ritualistic late-night laughter that gripped her with fear. Then, the doorbell rang. An unexpected, icy chill washed over her as she found Jake standing on her porch. His smile was too wide, too knowing. As she stepped back, her stomach twisted with panic. She had brushed aside her fears, but now a monstrous realization crashed down upon her. Someone had invaded their lives far deeper than she ever anticipated, wrapping them in a web of terror. She threw herself against the door as her heart thundered, the whispers of the neighborhood swirling together with each sharp, dreadful breath, leaving her with one haunting question: could the greatest danger be the illusions of safety binding them together? Emily's hands trembled as she leaned against the door, the weight of reality crashing down upon her. The thin veneer of normalcy had shattered. All those reassuring sounds, the laughter from the neighbors, the rustle of leaves and the breeze, turned sinister in her ears. It felt like the world outside was pulling her in, a whispered invitation to a party she never signed up for. "Jake," she called out, her voice thin as vapor. The fog rolled in, thickening the air. She could hear him outside faintly, but that too sent shivers racing down her spine. "What are you doing here?" He must have been waiting for too long, because his patience hung heavy in the air. A sound flashed through the silence, a soft chuckle, unsettling and unnatural. "Emily, I just wanted to see you. I thought we could talk." A laugh escaped, but it felt more like a sob. Everything about him now seemed off, like he wore a mask that was inching closer to slipping. How could a face that had once glimmered with charm become so dreadful, so familiar? Not now, Jake, she said, trying to push the panic down her throat. I'm busy? His reply was laced with mock amusement, each syllable echoing against the hollow silence of the approaching night. I find that hard to believe. After all, I've seen your routine. The air constricted around her, and she fumbled for her phone, but dread flooded her mind. What if he accessed it? What if he already had? As she fished it from her pocket, blinking against the future he implied, the line went dead. She could have sworn she felt his breath against her neck, the creep of his presence seeping under her skin. The door was not a barrier now. It was a desperate gasp for safety. Without thinking, she rushed to the living room and collapsed onto the couch, the wood creaking softly beneath her weight. The laughter from Mr. Thompson next door twisted into eerie echoes, filling her thoughts with shadows. Her mind raced. Had Ryan heard? Was he okay? Before she could dial, the lights flickered. A blinding flash, and then darkness. Her heart thundered louder than her panicking breaths. She leaped up, fumbling for the switch. No power. Ryan! She yelled, her voice raw with fear. The tiny hallway stretched like a dark tunnel, each door block looming like a sentinel of despair. She moved toward Ryan's room, dread gripping her throat like a vice. Mom? His voice came out small and quaking from behind the door. What's happening? Just stay there. I'm coming. As she inched towards him, the floorboards groaned underfoot, their creaks mingling with the distant laugh that echoed again, this time sounding victorious. Emily, let us make this easy. Jake's voice curled around her, smooth and sinister. Open the door. We can talk about this like adults. Shivers ran over her spine. Her son was in there. She hesitated. If she didn't open, would he hurt Ryan in retaliation? Get away from my family! She screamed, her voice cracking under pressure. Your family? He echoed slyly, each word draping itself in newfound cruelty. Doesn't he feel like a family, does it? You and I, Emily, we are so much more, and you know it. A sickening chill coiled around her heart. Listen to me, she barked. Don't you dare come in here. A knock reverberated through the house, sharp and menacing. Too late for that, darling. You brought me and I only came to cherish what we already have. Each second stretched like an eternity. Time began to dissolve as fear morphed into something darker. A surge of determination coursed through her veins. She would fight for her son, for her life. Ryan! She shouted, voice strong as steel. Lock your door. Do not open it. His muffled response was lost, drowned under the sinister laughter of their neighbor who now joined the orchestration of terror. Emily's breath quickened. What was happening? What choice would she make in the face of terror? As the knocking grew insistent and the darkness tightened its grip, she felt an unsettling presence drawing closer, clarity unraveling before her eyes. Would she be able to protect Ryan, or was the net of doom already closing? The door shuddered. A rattling laugh sounded outside. Emily's thoughts spiraled into chaos. What if safety was a delusion, after all? Help is on the way, she murmured, though the words felt hollow, trembling on her lips. What was happening beyond the door, and who would emerge from the shadows first? She knew one thing for certain: the hunt had begun. The darkness pressed in around Emily, each moment stretching unbearably. Her heart raced, pounding in her chest like a caged animal desperate to escape. Help is on the way, she told herself again, as if the mere repetition could manifest a miracle. But deep down, fear coiled tightly around her thoughts. The reality was chilling. Help had never been there when she needed it most. The knocking intensified, a rhythmic reminder that she was not alone. Jake's voice slithered through the veil of terror like a serpent. You don't think I'd hurt Ryan, do you? He taunted, his voice dripping with honeyed malice. He's just a boy. It would only take a moment. The thought paralyzed her. Emily pressed her back against the door, willing it to hold. The sensation of wood against her skin was a shaky comfort. She glanced back toward the narrow hallway, where shadows danced grotesquely in the faint light of the street lamp outside. Ryan! She called again, her throat raw. Are you okay? Mom. His response was shaky, laced with confusion and terror. I'm scared. Just stay put. Don't unlock your door. The panic surged through her, running ice through her veins. Emily Jake's voice shifted, a tremor of something darker creeping into its melody. I know how to stop this. Let me in, and I promise it'll be okay. Her mind raced. What did he mean? Hadn't she let him in once before? The memory hit like a slap in the face before the charm wore off, when trust had felt like a warm blanket, before it turned into chains that bound her to a ghost of love long gone. As fear wrestled with desperation, she turned to the window, instinctively looking for an escape. It felt like a movie scene gone awry. The fog slid against the glass like a spectral hand. Outside, shadows glided just beyond the streetlight's grasp, cars transformed into lurking beasts ready to devour her whole. Emily, he knocked again, harder this time. You know I'll always find a way. Why not make it easy? She took a step back, adrenaline flooding her system. Her thoughts were jumbled, the clock ticking, and then it hit her. Jake couldn't be alone. If he was here, there could be more. And what about the neighbors? They had gone quiet, like predators lying in wait. The realization sent an icy grip around her heart. She was not merely facing Jake, she might be encircled by a pack. Anxiety churned in her stomach as his laughter echoed again, mingling with the rustling leaves outside a twisted symphony of horror. Just a knock away from freedom, Emily, he taunted. Open the door and let us make this night unforgettable. The panic surged anew, fighting for control. What if he had others waiting? What if they were already inside? She peeked through the peephole, desperate to see something, anything. The sight sent a jolt through her. A figure loomed beyond the threshold, just out of focus, staring directly into the small glass circle. It was not just Jake anymore. The moment was tangible, visceral, a mere heartbeat from pure dread. Emily staggered back, her breath caught. Nothing to fear but the truth, Jake whispered, and the words twisted in her gut. Then, as if sensing the climax of her terror, the lights flickered again. This time, a startling silence followed as an oppressive weight settled over the house. In that moment of darkness, Emily felt something shift, a shadow, something not of this world, inching toward her. The air turned thick, suffocating. Emily! A voice shrieked from the living room. Open the door! Ryan's tone was frantic, filled with a desperation that knifed through the cloying fog of terror. But Emily couldn't move. The terror kept her rooted as reality morphed into a nightmare from which there was no escape. She felt something seize her wrist, cold and clammy. The door rattled this time, it rattled with urgency, as if whatever lay beyond was growing impatient, hungry. Are you ready for the truth? Jake's laugh crescendoed, hauntingly echoing through the growing dark. And then, the promise of confrontation. The hunt ventured to new territories. Would she succumb to the whispers? Or could she pull Ryan back from the edge of their shared unraveling? With everything slipping away around her, what choice remained? Emily's breath quickened. What secrets would they unveil together? Emily's heart thundered in her chest as the shadow tightened its grip around her wrist. Panic surged, boiling her blood. She struggled to make sense of the cold touch. Was it Jake? Or was this something lurking deeper within the shadows, ready to drag her into darkness? Open the door, Mom! Please! Ryan's voice, desperate and wild, clawed at her resolve. But the grip grew stronger, pulling her down, deep into the unknown. She wrestled against the unseen force, tearing her gaze from the door to scan her surroundings. Was there an escape? She'd lived in this house for years but suddenly felt like a stranger in her own skin. The walls were closing in. She fought, clawing at her wrist, but the air pulsed with an otherworldly pressure. Ryan! She shrieked, voice laced with fear. Don't worry. I'm coming. The lights flickered again, a reminder that they were living on borrowed time. Shadows twisted and writhed as if alive, clawing their way to her. The door rattled again. Jake's laughter echoed painfully, mixing with her son's cries, creating a twisted symphony of horror. When she glanced back at the door, A faint glimmer of light caught her attention behind Jake. Another figure shifted just steps behind him. A face emerged, pale and gaunt. Eyes dark and hollow as if void of spirit. The sight sent a chill racing down her spine. "Who's with you?" she called, voice trembling. Her instincts screamed to get away, but terror rooted her in place. "Just a friend," Jake replied, amusement dripping from his tone. "Someone who understands our little game. Open the door and let us play." Though she knew it was dangerous, she couldn't help but feel a nagging curiosity, the urge to know who else had come to haunt her. Beneath the layers of terror, something within her begged for understanding, for closure. Rushing to the window, she peeked through the curtain. The figure was standing just outside the beam of light, practically wrapped in darkness. It wore what seemed like a tattered jacket, the fabric flapping like dead leaves in the breeze. The face twisted slightly as if trying to inch forward, and she caught a glimpse of splattered darkness across its features. A part of her recognized that face. The haunting familiarity sent her pulse racing. "Is that?" "Open the door, Emily," Jake's voice sneered. "You aren't afraid of old friends, are you?" "No." She stepped back, the reality hitting her like a punch. Memories of trust were now laced with betrayal. Jake had turned her life into this grotesque play, surrounded by silhouettes from her past, from a time she'd hoped to forget. Then the grip on her wrist tightened, pulling her toward the darkness that writhed in the room's corners. She gasped, fighting against whatever entity threatened to consume her. It wasn't just Jake outside. It was a gathering of tormentors. "Ryan!" she screamed, lungs burning. "Get away from the door!" "Stay away from him," Jake's tone sharpened, venomous. "You'll only make matters worse." Suddenly, the door swung inwards. Not from Emily's hands. No. It creaked open, and a gruesome figure stumbled in. The street lamp's light cast an eerie glow on a face twisted in agony. Skin torn, eyes wide, screaming without sound, as though the very essence of suffering had seeped from within, Emily stumbled back, collapsing against the wall. The grip on her wrist released, as if whatever had come with the figure now lay in wait. "Emily!" Ryan's voice, full of hopelessness, broke through the haze. "Mom, let them in!" The shadows dancing around her flared. Icy dread clawed at her insides. She glanced toward her son's voice. What choice remained when every impulse screamed for survival? What truth awaited her beyond that doorway? The darkness shifted again, crawling closer, ready to reveal a nightmare she couldn't begin to fathom. "Come on, Emily, the show's about to begin," Jake whispered, echoing the terror she tried so hard not to acknowledge. With her heart in her throat, Emily knew this was no ordinary night. And together they would uncover secrets, never meant to be revealed. Could she save Ryan before it was too late? Would the truth free them, or would it seal their fates forever? Emily's breath hitched as she faced the door, the figure's silhouette looming like a specter from her nightmares. It was impossible to move. The very air almost crackled with an electric malevolence. Ryan's voice seeped through her paralysis, echoing in a manner that felt both distant and alarmingly close. "Mom! Please!" The twisted face at the door finally broke through her daze. Recognition slashed through her like a knife. It was Mark, Ryan's father. The man she thought had left them for good, who had haunted her dreams, returned in twisted form. Shredded skin, empty eyes. A ghastly expression that screamed of pain set to haunt her forever. "Get away from him!" she shouted, the urgency driving her voice like stakes through their connected lives. Mark stepped inside, the door slamming shut behind him as if to seal their untold horrors. "Emily," he gasped, his voice raw and strained, like rusted metal scraping against stone. "You need to let him in. They're coming." "Who?" The words slipped out almost as an instinct. She should have known. It was a question she dared not ask. The shadows began to swirl around her, thickening, and she felt cold fingers of dread wrap around her heart. A whisper rose, a chorus of lost souls echoing in her mind. "Let us and let us play." The walls around her creaked, as if aware of the terror bubbling just beneath the surface. A haunting laughter bubbled from Jake outside, and the oppressive weight of those converging shadows bore down on her. Emily spun toward Ryan, who stood frozen, wide-eyed and pale. "Ryan, don't move!" she shouted, desperately racking her brain for what to do. She was his protector, and yet she felt everything slipping right through her fingers. "Mom, it's okay," he called back, but his voice quivered, betraying a fear that he couldn't hide. "You don't have to be scared. Just let them in. They won't hurt me." A crash echoed from the window. Emily's heart skidded. The dark figure outside shifted closer, reaching toward her. "We come to play, Emily," it hissed. She couldn't think, couldn't breathe. Mark was now closer, his features shifting absurdly, the flickering bulbs above illuminating his grotesque form. "Emily, this all revolves around you. We're bound together. If you want your son, let them in." "No!" She felt every alarm bell screaming inside her. The more she looked at Mark, the more twisted memories flooded her mind, a past she deeply buried. How had it all come back like this? Shadows weren't just monsters. They were remnants of her broken past, drawing near, licking at her sanity. Suddenly the house trembled, a low growl in the very bones of the structure. Dust fell from the ceiling like tears. Emily felt like she was being pressed down, pushed into the very earth beneath her. "Let them in, Emily," Jake beckoned, his twisted smile revealing too many teeth. "You'll play the best parts of the game this time." "Enough!" A deep, wild rage burst within her. "Get away from my son!" She lunged toward Ryan, grabbing him tightly. A surge of energy pulsed through her as she turned to face the gathering shadows. "Whatever you are, you don't get to take him!" Her words breathed defiance, knotted in fear and fire. But from behind she felt the cold grasp of an unseen force, no longer subtle. The darkness shifted in unison, every entity acknowledging the challenge. Laughter bubbled again, loud, malicious, as if they thrived off her defiance. Then, without warning, Jake flung open the door again. The light flickered violently, revealing a mass of faces. One face split the crowd, full of malice, the face of someone she thought she'd never see again. "Welcome home, Emily," said a voice that dug into her memories like ice. "Your real nightmare begins now." As the darkness lunged forward, the walls of reality started to bend, reshaping their cruel game. Would Emily finally unveil the truth she had buried for so long before they pulled her into oblivion? Who would survive this twisted reunion, and at what cost? Emily felt a sickening lurch in her stomach as the door swung wide, revealing not just Mark but a grotesque gallery of twisted souls, each face an echo of a life lost. Fury and fear battled inside her as she clutched Ryan tighter, her heart pounding like a drum signaling imminent doom. Their laughter filled the space, a sound that twisted her insides, sending electric shocks of panic coursing through her. "Let us in, Emily," they hissed in unison, voices crawling up her spine like 1,000 spiders. "No!" she cried out, battling the rising tide of despair. With a sudden burst of adrenaline, she backed away from the door, dragging Ryan with her. The cold grip of anxiety threatened to suffocate her. Each face before her seemed to mock her choices, accusing her of past sins she couldn't escape. Mark stepped forward, eyes glinting with a hunger that sent chills down her spine. "You can't protect him, Emily. You never could," he sneered, darkness swirling around him as he drew closer. The shadows encroached again, lunging toward them, whispering promises of safety if only she would let them in. "No! You don't get to take him!" Emily shouted, lips trembling as she fought back tears of dread. The reality of the moment crashed over her with a force she couldn't deny. She was powerless, but she'd die before she let them have her son. This was her fight, and she would not back down. "Mom, they're just here to play," Ryan said, his voice barely above a whisper, confused and frightened. "Play? Ryan, don't listen." Emily felt his grip weaken as he glanced toward the gathering shadows. They were beautiful in their horrific way, luring him with promises of fun and games. Each whisper seeped into her ears, twisting her thoughts, dragging her toward surrender. Suddenly, Mark lunged at them, his movements rapid, serpentine. Emily braced herself, instinctively putting herself between him and Ryan. A dark tendril lashed out, brushing against her arm, electrifying her senses with icy dread. Visions emerged in her mind, flashes of a past she fought to forget. Let go of the past, Emily. Embrace who you are. Mark howled, his voice shaking with a chilling fervor. Her vision swam, memories flooding back, twisted faces, dark nights, all the secrets she had buried. They were here. They wouldn't he let her forget. No! With wild desperation, she plunged into her memories, snatching the fragments of light hidden within. This was her moment of reckoning, a desperate grasp at control. You will not have us! She roared, her voice breaking through the cacophony of despair. The shadows shrieked, a horrific sound that reverberated through the walls. They recoiled for a moment, uncertainty flickering in their distorted faces. Emily seized the opportunity. Run, Ryan! Now! Ryan's eyes widened, and for a brief instant, she saw clarity, a recognition of the danger. He bolted toward the staircase, fear propelling him forward. Emily followed, determination surging within her as Mark cried out, You can't escape me! The walls throbbed, the very air filled with malicious delight as the shadows pressed closer, shrieking with unholy rage. They banged against the walls, the house moaning in agony, rocking as if trying to shake off the nightmare. Emily reached the top, her mind racing. Where could they go? The attic, of course. If she could just make it there, the secrets they'd buried might hold the key. She turned, pulling Ryan close. We have to find the light. He hesitated, eyes wide with fear, but they had no time. The door downstairs splintered as the dark figure surged forward, pushing through like a tide of malice. In that instant, she saw a faint glimmer above the attic door, a beacon of hope in utter despair. Now! She shouted, a final breath of power fueling her command. They rushed toward the light. But as they approached, the shadows drew together, morphing into an even darker mass. You belong to us, Emily! They howled, the walls shaking with their fury. She reached for the doorknob, heart racing, but just as she grasped it, a hand seized her from behind, a strong, familiar grip. You can't run from yourself. Mark's voice twisted with manic glee. The shadows enveloped them, laughter ringing in Emily's ears. Her reality splintered as she let out a primal scream, but now, as darkness closed in, would she find the truth that lay hidden in her own past? Or was she forever lost within the twisted realm of her nightmares? Emily's scream reverberated, a raw echo of fear that crashed into the walls of the attic. The air was thick and electric, swirling with an unseen malevolence that thickened like fog. Mark's grip felt like iron around her, every pulse a reminder of her vulnerability. Just then, a burst of light flickered through the cracks in the attic door, illuminating the dark corners where nightmares lurked. Mom! Ryan's voice cracked, desperation slicing through the tension like a knife. He stood frozen, wide-eyed, at the threshold of terror, caught between the shadows and the light. Emily tried to wrench herself free from Mark's grasp, but his fingers tightened, sending jolts of panic racing through her veins. Stop fighting, Em. Come join us, Mark's voice dripped with a sickly sweetness, taunting her from a nightmare she thought she'd escaped. The shadows coiled around his feet, whispering urges, seducing her with promises of a binding freedom, of release from pain. You don't have to protect him. The fear is stronger than love. With a surge of instinct, she spun to face the drifting shadows. You think I'd abandon my son? Her defiance caused the shadows to waver, their whispers turning frantic. They pressed closer, overwhelming her senses. Each laugh morphed into a haunting melody, a requiem of memories and lost hopes. The attic door shuddered under the weight of dark desires, and Emily felt the room spin sideways. There was a crack, a hairline fracture along a wooden beam overhead. Light poured through it, spilling warmth into the cold, oppressive atmosphere, vying for attention amidst the consuming shadows. Mom! Ryan pleaded again, this time stretching his small hands toward her. His courage lit a tiny flame in Emily's heart, a flicker amid encroaching darkness. She looked at him, despair and determination colliding within her. I will protect you, Ryan! Ignoring Mark's snicker, she twisted free, finally breaking the hold. She surged forward, grabbing Ryan's hand. They ran toward the glimmer above, the light wavering just out of reach. But the shadows encircled them, their claws snapping as they lunged, hissing threats that chilled Emily's blood. "Run! Don't look back!" she yelled, every ounce of her strength pulsing through her as they dashed toward the sliver of hope. The shadows snarled and clutched at her hair, tearing at her clothes, their icy breath seeping through her skin, screaming promises of anguish that made her heart race. Just as they neared the beam of light, Mark reappeared, blocking their path with an agility that stole Emily's breath. "You can't escape the truth, Emily. You need to face it." His face twisted, contorting into forms that danced in and out of sight, swirling with dark glee. The weight of what he said crashed down. Was she truly ready to confront her past? But instinct drowned out thought. Emily pushed forward, adrenaline trampling over the fear. "No, not now!" She shoved Ryan behind her, shielding him as she lunged upward, grabbing at the fractured beam, feeling the warmth seep through her fingers. In a dizzying rush, she pulled them through, the light swallowing them whole. It surged around her, and for a fleeting second, she felt hope spark within, reborn from the flames of dread. But the shadows howled, a guttural sound echoing like a storm, clawing at their heels as they vanished into the intensity of brightness. And then darkness enveloped them again. When the light sliced through, they weren't in the attic anymore. They had landed not in another room but in a shadowy, echoing void. The air was thick, humid with the scent of lost promises and lingering fears. A small figure loomed at the distance, its features obscured. "Welcome, Emily," it called, a voice dripping with familiarity that made her blood run cold. "Who are you?" she stammered, each second stretching into eternity. The figure stepped forward, revealing a face she knew all too well, a face she had buried, hidden away from her own conscience. "You can't escape your past," the figure whispered. "It's time to remember." Emily's heart raced, feeling the binding, cold grip of sudden revelation. Would confronting her past deliver them from this torment, or would it ensnare them forever? And as she prepared to step further into the darkness, a chilling thought rippled through her: the truths could be much more terrifying than the shadows themselves. What lay ahead would determine not just their survival, but all the secrets that were better left untouched. The figure stepped closer, each footfall soundless, as if the very essence of the void absorbed its presence. Emily's breath caught like a fish on dry land. Staring into the familiar face felt like peering into a cracked mirror. She saw fragments of herself reflected, distorted and bruised. "Are you here to torment me?" Emily's voice trembled, barely rising against the thick air. The figure's eyes glinted, the recognition making it even more horrific. "No, Emily. I'm here to guide you," it said, voice like velvet wrapped around broken glass. "Everything you've feared, every regret that haunts you, will be laid bare here." Ryan clutched at her side, sensing her fear. He was closer to her than ever, but also seemed to stand in a different universe, a universe where he didn't acknowledge the figure at all. "Mom, let us go back," he shouted, panic driving his words. The shadows seemed to pulse, hungry for the boy's fear. "No," Emily said sharply, grounding herself against the rising horror. She felt a tether to Ryan. She had to protect him. "You can't take him." "Take him?" The figure laughed, a sound that twisted like a knife. "Oh, Emily, he is already a part of this world. Just as you are." The darkness pressed in, the echoes of her past swirling around her like a cyclone of despair. Faint memories drifted forward, sharp and stinging whispers of laughter turned to screams, the warmth of a home turned to ashes. Each moment she buried began rising from the pit of her memory, igniting the shadows. "Mom, what is happening?" Ryan's small, frightened voice snapped her back, and she knelt to meet his gaze. "It's okay, sweetheart. It's going to be all right," she lied, though the words felt foreign on her tongue. But she had to believe it for both their sakes. "Look at the past, Emily," the figure whispered, its voice curling around them. "The moment you forgot who you were was the moment darkness took hold. You have to remember before it consumes you." Suddenly, images flashed before her, flickers of old photographs she'd long hidden. A smiling girl with pigtails and wide, trusting eyes, a mother's laughter, tears shed over lost dreams. Each recollection ignited the shadows, snapping and crackling like electricity. Emily felt herself being pulled, pieces of herself unraveling. I can't go back there," she shouted, despair flooding her heart. The shadows lunged, their claws reaching for the remnants of her spirit. "Then you'll lose him." The figure stepped even closer, and everything tilted off balance. The overwhelming urge to grasp her memories tightened around her throat like a vice. She squeezed Ryan's hand to remind herself of her purpose. "No! I will not let you take him." But as she fought against the phantom, the shadows erupted, swirling violently around them, hungry for their fear. The void stretched and distorted, dark tendrils reaching for Ryan. "Mom!" he cried, his eyes wide with terror. In that instant, Emily felt a surge of clarity. Was her past truly something to fear? Could facing it be the key to freeing them both? With trembling resolve, she took a step toward the figure, breaking the cycle of screaming memories. "I have to know," she whispered, her heart pounding steady like a war drum. The shadows veiled her in suffocating darkness, yet the warmth of her son's grip ignited her courage. If she was to confront her past, she would do it fiercely, not as a victim, but as a mother determined to save her child. "Let us go," she said, summoning strength as the darkness crept closer. "Let us face it together." But as Emily descended into the shadows, a cold, chilling thought pierced through her resolve. The face of what lay buried could reveal grim truths about her own heart, truths that might be better off buried forever. And in that moment she understood. Did she truly want the answers she sought? As they plunged deeper into the void, a dreadful premonition coiled around her heart. Something far worse than she could have imagined was waiting for them in the shadows. The darkness swallowed them whole, consuming every fragment of light until there was nothing but the abyss. Emily tightened her grip around Ryan's hand, feeling the warmth of his small fingers against her palm. But warmth didn't last long. A cold breeze brushed across her skin, like ice skimming over a bruise, sending a shiver racing down her spine. "Mom?" Ryan's voice was barely a whisper, hanging in the air like a fragile thread. She turned to face him, heart pounding. His eyes were wide, reflecting unshed tears, shimmering with an innocent confusion. She had to fight this. Had to keep him safe. "Stay close to me," she urged, her voice trembling against the encroaching void. The shadows whispered around them, a cacophony of lost souls wailing in despair, but Emily stood firm, locking her gaze onto the figure slowly materializing from the dark, a twisted version of herself, dressed in the remnants of a long-gone era. "You've come to discover," the figure cooed, its voice drenched in venomous sweetness. "You must see the root of your fears. It's all part of the game." A crooked smile stretched across its face, revealing pointed teeth glistening like sharpened ivory. Emily felt her heart race. "I want to play your game." "I refuse." The shadow snarled, mocking her defiance. "Oh, but you're already playing, Emily. Every step you've taken has brought you closer. And the boy, he's the main prize." The figure extended a skeletal hand toward Ryan, fingers curling like claws. "No!" Emily shrieked, yanking Ryan behind her. The darkness swirled with anticipation, pulsing like a living being. She could feel the shadows reaching for them, slipping against her skin, icy and damp. "Get away from him!" Her voice cracked, raw and desperate. "I'm not here to hurt him. Just to show you the truth." Its gaze locked onto Emily's, and for a moment she felt the weight of her own history pressing in. Memories she thought long buried clawed their way back to the surface, drastic and vivid. A house on fire. The screams of her family, drowning in flames. An empty cradle, the aftermath of loss she had kept secured in a box within her heart. She staggered backward, stumbling against Ryan. I can't do this. Mom!" His small voice jolted her, and she wrapped her arms around him, feeling his heartbeat against her chest. But the figure laughed, deep and resonant, a sound that seemed to carry the weight of her past mistakes. "Face it, Emily. You think shielding him will save him? The truth will swallow you whole if you don't confront it. The shadows surged, wrapping around the figures of both mother and child, drawing them toward the truth, like a moth toward flame. "I'll never let you take him!" Emily roared, determination boiling within her. She took a step forward. "Whatever you've done, whatever I've done, I will face it. Together." "No, not together. Only you can make the choice. Will you let go of your fears? Or will you hold on until it destroys you both?" The figure leaned in, its breath stinking of ash and despair. In that moment, Emily understood the depths of what she faced. If she wanted to save Ryan, she had to risk losing everything. The shadows twisted grotesquely, forcing her to confront her deepest horrors. With a scream that thundered through the shadows, Emily took a deep breath and shouted, "I choose. I choose to remember." Everything shattered. The shadows erupted like fireworks, swirling violently as memories flooded back. Each moment raced by, every sin laid bare: betrayal, pain, anguish. As the shadows howled, she felt an eerie calm wash over her. Perhaps the only way to break the cycle was to dive into the chaos. She clutched Ryan tighter, ready to face the storm ahead. But the figure sneered as the darkness writhed before them, whispering, "You've just begun to uncover the truth. You have no idea what's waiting behind the veil." Emily's breath snagged in her throat, the realization hitting her like a bolt of lightning. What lay ahead was far more terrifying than she could ever anticipate. And as the shadows began to close in again, she knew the true horror was still hidden, lurking just out of sight, waiting for the right moment to strike. Could she truly confront it, or would it devour them both? The shadows whirled around them, whispering secrets filled with ancient pain. Emily held Ryan tightly, grounding herself in that moment, anchored by the warmth of his small body pressed against her. It was a brutal dance of fear and determination, but survival meant confronting her demons. "Stay close," she whispered to Ryan, feeling his breath hitch as the shadows pulsed. She could sense the darkness encroaching, trying to trap them in a lace of hopelessness. "We're going to face this together." The figure before them shimmered, its twisted visage glowing with a malevolent light. "You think you can protect him?" It laughed, the sound slicing through the heavy air like a knife. "He will always be part of this dance." Emily felt a rush of anger surging through her veins, igniting every nerve in her body. "He is not a part of this!" she shouted, the echo of her voice reverberating through the void. "I will not allow you to take him." The shadows howled, hungry and impatient, hungry for her fear. Yet beneath that fear lied determination. She took a step forward, staring into the figure's hollow eyes. "I refuse to remain a prisoner of my past. I am not afraid." With her heart pounding, she focused on the memories. Familiar faces flickered to life within the murky depths around her: laughter, joy, sorrow, and the darkness of betrayal. They came in waves, engulfing her in their turbulent emotions. "I remember," she whispered, "I remember everything." In that moment, the shadows shrank away from her words, recoiling as if burned. The air thickened, and she felt an internal shift, a sense of power rising within her. "Let us in!" the figure hissed, but Emily shook her head. "No! I will not let you control us." And just like that, the ethereal light from above flickered anew, a beacon of hope that pierced the veil of darkness. It unveiled layers of her past that had long been shrouded in despair, revealing truths she fought to hide. Emily took a step toward the light, the warmth enveloping her, making her feel real again. "I will reclaim my life. Mom!" Ryan's voice echoed with the strength of a child's belief. "We can do it!" With Ryan's support, Emily felt the shadows begin to break, unraveling like a frayed tapestry. "We are stronger than this!" she shouted, her voice booming against the darkness. "We choose to remember, we refuse to forget." Cracks splintered through the shadows as they pushed against her, but Emily stood firm, the light trailing her essence, pulling her forward. Each step she took illuminated the past, unveiling anger, sorrow, but also love, forgiveness, and strength. "Face it!" the figure snarled, lashing out with dark tendrils aimed at both Emily and Ryan. But they stood resolute, the light encasing them in warmth. "We refuse to be bound by your chains." With a mighty shout, Emily climbed the final steps toward the glowing beacon. Beyond it, she glimpsed a realm filled with light, a place where pain transformed into understanding, where the heavy burdens of guilt faded into the ether. Let us go! They raced forward, the light sucking them in, the darkness howling behind them. Suddenly everything exploded. The shadows burst like glass, shattering into a million pieces of swirling darkness, fading as the warmth enveloped them completely. Emily tightened her grip on Ryan, feeling the reassuring pulse of his heart next to her beating against her own. Then silence. They emerged into daylight, the sun radiant against the horizon, the air crisp and new. Emily inhaled deeply, feeling reborn amidst the tranquility. She looked down at Ryan, whose eyes sparkled wide and astonished, and she knelt to embrace him. "Did we do it?" he asked, the innocence in his voice melting her heart. "Yes, sweetheart. Yes, we did," she murmured, holding him tightly. Tears streamed down her cheeks, not out of grief but relief, joy, and a heavy sense of closure. In that moment, a broken chain of fear fell away. They had faced the darkness, clawed through their fears, and emerged together. Mama and son, they stood there, basking in their freedom, ready to rewrite their story. One filled with light and love rather than shadows and regret. As Emily pulled away, she looked around at the tapestry of life before them, birds chirping, the sun kissing the ground, the path ahead clear and bright. Hope surged within her. "Let us go home," she smiled, and together they took the first steps back toward a future unshackled from the past. The echoes of their experience lingered, fading but never forgotten, a lesson etched deep within their hearts. They were survivors now, bound by love instead of pain, and with that they entered a fresh chapter, ready to embrace the triumph of new beginnings. The shadows were behind them, and the horizon stretched ahead, endless and full of promise. This is the time to grab your own truth, confront your own shadows, and let them go. Take the leap towards the future that awaits with courage. If you want to know more about Emily and Ryan, you need to subscribe now. Don't miss the exclusive stories we have in store for you. Smash that like button now to show your support and help our community grow. Flood the comments section with your thoughts, reactions, and theories about the twists and turns you just witnessed. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need this uplifting conclusion in their lives. Together, let us spread hope and healing.